Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is the fifth episode of the FPC podcast, the Visegrad Group in Georgia, the project which is supported by the Embassy of the Republic of Poland in Tbilisi. I remind you that our first guest was Ambassador of Poland. Then I had an honor to host the Ambassador of Hungary, then the Ambassador of the Czech Republic, and the last guest speaker of our podcast was the Ambassador of Slovakia. Today I have an honor to host the guest from Poland, a researcher with a very interesting biography, Dr. Krzysztof Dębiec from Ośrodek Studiów Wschodnich, which in Polish, in English, means the Center for Eastern Studies. Mr. Krzysztof has a very interesting biography. He was born in 1983, graduated from Warsaw School of Economics, MA in International Relations and College of Europe, MA in European Interdisciplinary Studies. In 2011, he defended a PhD thesis on the economic implications of the immigration of citizens from the Central and Eastern European countries to the United Kingdom and obtained a PhD in economic sciences. He started working for Center for Eastern Studies, Ośrodek Studiów Wschodnich, in January 2018. Previously, he worked for the Department of Trade and Investment Promotion at the Polish Embassy in Prague, the Ministry of Economy and the Economic and Trade Department of the Permanent Representation of the Republic of Poland to the European Union in Brussels. To cut a long story short, it is a pleasure and honor to host you. Good evening.
So the first question that I traditionally address to our guests is the general question. Why V4 matters from your point of view, from expert point of view? As I know you specialize in Slovakia, the Czech Republic, you perfectly know the Central European region. And could you say why generally the V4 matters for Poland and generally why this regional alliance matters?
Well, we have basically two questions which are included in that question, because one is why it mattered and why it matters at the moment. Firstly, I will probably say a few words on the importance of V4 previously, historically. As the Visegrad Declaration of 1991 stated, the cooperation between Poland, Hungary, and then Czechoslovakia was established so as to help them strive for European integration. And in that respect, V4 fulfilled its task. All countries joined the EU. They also joined NATO. They supported each other in the process. And at the moment, it also is important for several reasons. So firstly, I'll probably start with the least obvious arguments, and it is because it simply allows the countries which are more or less neighbors, Poland neighbors on Czech Republic and Slovakia, Hungary neighbors on Slovakia, Slovakia neighbors on all other V4 countries. It allows them to get to know each other better and on different dimensions. We all know and probably hear from media about meetings on the highest level, that is meetings of presidents and prime ministers before the European Council meetings, or ministerial meetings before some important EU Council meetings. But it is much more than that. This cooperation is effectuated on several dimensions, starting with self-government, going through expert level, and it also involves cooperation of NGOs. It is supported by its only institution established so far, the International Visegrad Fund. And in this respect, it simply allows us to get to know each other better, and that in turn allows us to build confidence and trust. And confidence and trust in politics, as you all probably know, is simply indispensable if we are to build some serious politics together. Then it is important as a grouping which is a leader of certain topics, like V4 countries used to be and still is an important core element of the Friends of Cohesion policy grouping. It is an informal grouping of EU member states that support generous cohesion policy, and they realize that V4 as its core plays and has played an important role in forwarding common statements and common thoughts on that, and that makes the common that makes the argumentation better heard on the EU level as well. We will probably have time to develop on more policies that I don't know to what extent I should go to detail at the moment. But it is important in several other EU policies as well. All V4 countries are strong proponents of completing EU internal market. They support leaving internal borders within the EU open in line with Schengen rules, while at the same time keeping strong external border of the European Union. We've had the role that the V4 countries played during the migration crisis. We'll probably say about that a few moments later. So it's simply a useful tool for getting to know each other better, for pragmatically forwarding our statements, for making them stronger, and for simply carrying out our common interests.
Thank you very much for your answer. And the next question that logically comes to my mind is the main challenges and current challenges of the V4 right now. From your point of view and in your opinion, what are the main challenges that this regional union is facing right now?
Well, of course, V4, like the EU or any other grouping, groups countries that have their own interests, and any common decision often or sometimes involves compromises. and all V4 countries can be divided in several small groupings, depending on what topic we would like to discuss. With regard to Russia, we have Poland, which is the most vocal proponent of sanctions towards Moscow. Well, at the same time, we have Hungary, a country that cooperates quite closely with Kremlin. They use they contracted Russian companies, Russian state companies, to develop their nuclear energy. And
name of this nuclear power station is Paksh, yes?
Paksh, yeah,
Paksh.
it's Paksh. Also, societies of the of V4 countries, they have various stances towards Moscow. Slovakia is apart from Bulgaria, most pro-Russian society in the EU, while at the same time Poland is more, let's say, realistic when it comes to Russia's targets. So one is relation to Russia. We also have now several problems. We will probably have problems in next budget negotiations because on the one hand we have Czech Republic, which is at the moment over 90% of GDP per capita of the EU, and Poland, Slovakia and Hungary, which are about 71-73%. So Czech Republic is increasingly more taking the perspective of net payers in the EU budget, and it will probably become one in 7 years' time, which will completely change the role of V4 in the budget negotiations, bar some unexpected twists and turns. So that's the other thing. We also have to mention the current Article 7 controversies with regards to Hungary and Poland, which puts pressure on Czech Republic and Slovakia, the countries which also have their problems internally, but they don't want to be linked with rule of law problems. And while they, at the one hand, avoid criticizing directly Poland and Hungary, they don't want to push too much the V4 agenda, so as not to be associated with rule of law issues. And it's a huge burden of V4 cooperation at the moment. I would say that Slovakia at the moment is the country that distances itself most. The high authorities of Slovakia, they began stressing Slavkov cooperation, which is another instrument of regional cooperation grouping Czech Republic, Slovakia and Austria. And it may be varying from the Visegrad perspective. We also have some different stances towards the issue of institutional towards the issue of building common institutions for the V4. Poland, for example, has long been a supporter for institutionalizing the group, but so far only the International Visegrad Fund remains the only institution to be established. On the other hand, the smaller V4 countries, we must remember that Poland takes about 60% of V4 population and area. So this difference in potentials is huge, and smaller V4 countries they tend to be afraid of being dominated by Poland, and it has to be also taken into account. So the issue of institutions. We so far have one, and well, I wouldn't expect any new institutions to be established at the moment. There is still issue of V4 enlargement, which is raised from time to time, but it should be stressed. It's more of an issue for certain political circles in separate states. Like in Czech Republic, it's the surrounding of President Zeman, which support the idea, and it also has to be said that there hasn't been any direct submission from other states that would become did not want to become members, like Romania, Slovenia, and Austria were mentioned in the context, but there's been nothing really concrete so far on this issue. Well, there are probably more differences and more challenges. We at the moment also have the challenges which stem from the current pandemic crisis, which is both a crisis of medical or health nature and economic one. During the spring lockdowns, the borders were closed. Trade has been limited. Also, human relations have been very restricted, and it has been a huge blow for Visegrad cooperation, both on the higher level. It distanced countries from each other. Also the different stages of how the pandemic evolved in different countries. It also put some pressure on several countries to restrict contacts. During a peak in Silesia, for example, it has been people from Silesia were blocked from entering Czech Republic. Later on, during peak in Czech Republic, Slovakia closed or hugely limited the possibility of crossing the borders, which in turn annoyed Czech Prime Minister, who felt that some promise made during V4 meetings has been broken. But all in all, at the moment, the contacts in economic terms are developing well. The human contacts, of course, limited, but hopefully that will come to an end one day, sooner than later.
Yes, and also we have very good news on this issue. I mean, the vaccines. I really hope that shortly will be distributed. As for the issue of the Visegrad Forum, I, as a scholar and the researcher of the Visegrad Group, consider this regional union as an effective tool, despite of many similarities and differences and controversial opinions about this regional union. I think that this, I would say, alliance of 4 Central European countries works and is ineffective. But it is very interesting to hear your point of view, Mr. Krzysztof. Do you consider this regional union as an effective tool in the fulfillment of Polish regional and foreign policy interests?
Well, of course, we're talking firstly about the EU level, where no, basically, or very few countries have the power to push forward their interest on their own. Apart from Germany and perhaps France, all other countries, or even them, in practice have to build coalitions. And well, in V4 we are basically in the same boat in the sense that we share some common experience. We are more or less on the same level of economic development. I said before, the Czech Republic is a bit apart at the moment, but still we had to go through the transformation period. We entered NATO, or joined NATO, roughly the same time, Slovakia 5 years later. And well, we're basically on the same boat. Well, as for the EU policies, of course, I've mentioned also the cohesion policy, which is huge for all countries, but it's also about common agricultural policy. All countries have interest in keeping generous funds for CAP from the EU budget. We are a bit more distant when it comes to details. Poland is, for example, one of the countries with smaller farms. Czech Republic and Slovakia are countries with biggest farms in the EU. So we, as Poland, more or less support capping of CAP funds, while at the same time Czech Republic and Slovakia, they oppose it. But still, we are united in the support for CAP as such, together with France, for example. So cohesion policy, CAP, internal market, where all countries are more or less oriented on export. Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Hungary are among OECD countries that rely on exports to greatest extent. Poland a little bit less. It has a bigger internal market, but still we are among the countries which gained most from opening the EU internal market, and we want it to be completed. By saying completed, I mean first of all services area, which as you'll probably know, where the regulations and the practice leaves still a lot to be desired. All V4 countries also are using their experience in Euro-Atlantic integration to support their neighbors from outside the EU. Poland, supported by Sweden and Czech Republic, were among the proponents of Eastern Partnership, while Western Balkan region is also among the one with highest focus and support for the European and Atlantic integration. Slovakia is, I would say, one of the countries where their network, expert network, and their actions are most widely developed in Western Balkans. Of course, there's also this migration issue that I would probably have to touch upon at least. It's where it's when the Visegrad Group came to public attention, came to public conscience in the EU, and usually with quite bad media coverage. But still, the common actions of Visegrad Group countries helped block obligatory migration quotas that were opposed by a large majority of the which I think ultimately is the one that also has to be taken into account.
Thank you very much. I have another question about the Polish presidency. As we know, till June 2021, Poland is the chairman and president of the Visegrad Group. Of course, we have heard some comments from the representatives of Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs about the priorities of Poland. But in your opinion, what should be the economic or political priorities of Polish presidency of this
As far as I remember, the main motto of Polish presidency is "back on track," which is about recovering after a pandemic crisis, both in terms of health issues and in terms of economic recovery. And of course, that's paramount. If we agree on that, and we know that there's huge pressure on each government to distance itself so as to restrict any danger. If we are able to combine on this issue to formulate some common statements and common policies, that would be a huge success. Of course, it's very important at the moment, and it's also very challenging at the same time. We don't know where we are going in the long term, whether we are going to face a third wave of coronavirus. To what extent we will be able to mitigate the negative economic effects by budget stimuli, and there are a lot of question marks here, and it's a huge task for the Polish presidency to coordinate, to be a leader, and to play the behind the scene diplomacy, which is also paramount in such cases. And we will probably be able to assess that only in hindsight, probably in a few months' time at the earliest. The second issue, I would say, it's Belarus, although it's probably became less vocal in the last weeks. But it has to be stressed that the Polish presidency was up to the task here. It's been the leader, it's drafted a plan, and it's gained support from other V4 countries. It has gone with it at the EU level, and Poland, in the name of V4 countries, gained support for the plan also on the EU level, which also kind of reflects also allows us to gain as a V4 points in the positive agenda, part. We have to live with it, with the negative publicity, but also we have to show it is unjustified at least at some points, and the Belarus crisis has showed that it's we have some area of expertise, and we can be positive, we can be constructive, and we can also lead in the EU on certain important issues. Of course, there are also some other areas where the cooperation is and should be developed, like digital economy, infrastructure, where there are still huge gaps. For example, in road transport. There are pipelines being built at the moment, which will connect Slovakia and Poland, giving Slovakia access to LNG terminal. There's Via Carpathia road being built, coming from Baltic states down through Poland and Slovakia to the Balkans. So these are huge, but these are also long-term targets, and they will not be solved overnight. It will also take other presidencies to lead and to make progress in these issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krzysztof. Our conversation is coming to an end, but at the end of our podcast, I would like to address to you another short question. And my question is a bit, I would say, provocative. And in your opinion, can the V4 be expanded in the near future? For example, may the other countries join to this regional alliance?
Well, I touched upon this issue before. I will probably develop a little bit on that. Well, my answer is simple. No. There's no agreement on that, and it will probably never be. Any attempts to enlarge V4 are usually treated as an attempt to disregard V4, keeping it simple. Leaving it in four countries format, it simply allows closer cooperation, and also, which is kind of important for all countries, to keep a certain confidentiality of meetings, of the idea of not criticizing each other openly. Simply, what stays inside, what is spoken inside stays inside. At the same time, I see a future for V4 Plus format, which is occasional, which means occasional meetings of V4 on the prime minister or ministerial level, with the participation of certain other countries or groupings. We've seen that certain V4 Plus formats have established themselves in more or less on a more or less regular basis. It goes, for example, for V4 Plus Western Balkans, V4 Plus Eastern Partnership countries.
If I'm not mistaken, V4 Plus Japan, as I know, for the economic cooperation, yes?
Yeah. That there are also other ad hoc meetings like V4 Plus Israel, but these are on a less regular or simply ad hoc basis. But I don't see V4 being enlarged and becoming V5 or V6. There were, as I've said before, attempts to do it, like Radosław Sikorski, when he was foreign minister of Poland, he pushed for including of Romania in the group, but it has been very badly taken in other V4 countries. And later there were some attempts from Austria, but it was only one far right party which became part of a previous ruling coalition. At the end, nothing materialized, and it doesn't seem like there is an overall agreement in these countries that they want to join, and there's strong resentment in the V4 to enlarge as well. So the V4 plus format seems like a golden solution in the current situation.
Yes, absolutely agree with you. And also, I remember that when I was working within my field research, PhD field research, on the issue of Russian propaganda influence in the countries of V4, I remember the initiative of Poland to launch a so-called Visegrad TV, which was immediately blocked by the Czech Republic and Slovakia, if I'm not mistaken. So, thank you very much, Mr. Krzysztof, again, for spending these 45 minutes with us. It was a pleasure, and I hope to continue the cooperation with you, and wish you all the best, and first of all, the health and the successful continuation of your research activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me.
Thank you so much.